All right.
Hello, everybody.
We are back with another episode of the Retro Review Crew.
That's right.
I'm Matt.
I'm Travis.
And we're here to discuss, as you heard, Mario Kart 64.
Yes, absolutely. Our first episode of the new year.
That's right, 2025.
Yes.
And a lot closer than we did from Jurassic Park to Earthbound Beginnings.
Yes. Yes, this one took us a little bit less time than it took to go through Earthbound Beginnings.
Yes. Well, the next segment is we got to talk about the history.
Yes.
With what we have with this game, Mario Kart 64. I'll let you go first.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, being a kid that got the Nintendo 64 right when it came out that holiday season, Mario Kart 64 was very early in the, games that had to be picked up to be played. So everybody I knew that had an N64 had this game, including myself and my brother. It was just one that was so much fun to play. You could play by yourself. You could play, doing Grand Prix. You could do battle mode. You could have people that everyone kind of waited their turn to play. It was so much fun. I had played the original Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo when I was a kid before this. So I was familiar with the idea of Mario Kart. And it was always a fun one to just jump back in with. Remember, being a kid and having sleepovers and having people over, and then we'd do, the battle mode and things like that. Or we'd have all four of us trying to do the Grand Prix as well. So, a lot of fun memories with this game. Loved all the different characters, and it's one that when I went back for this and started playing again, I was, amazed at how well it really holds up. How about you? What's your history with this game?
It's kind of interesting because everybody had this game, and you are definitely correct in that, except for me.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I did not. Yeah, for whatever reason, I never asked for either the Super Nintendo version or the N64 version.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But my neighbor did, and I played it all the time. All the time. We played Mario Kart all the time. So when I went to his house, played it, he'd bring it over. So I know the game, and maybe that's why I never bought it, because he had it all the time, and he came over.
To it. Makes
so,
sense.
Yeah, we played it quite a bit. Despite ever owning it at that time, obviously.
Yeah.
Picked it up about a few years ago for the first time, actually. At
Nice.
Half Price Books.
Better late than never.
Shout out to Half Price Books.
Absolutely.
But that's where I did get it. We did the review on the first one, and it was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And it was cool to do this one because, like you said, it was actually probably... the N64 didn't have a ton of games, especially in that first year.
Yeah.
And I think this was probably one of the first 10 titles for it.
Probably.
I think. Maybe if it's not 10, it's for surely top 15. So
yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't know if it was a launch title, but I would have been pretty close to it if it wasn't. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Pilot Wings was for some reason a launch
title. Wings was obviously
the Super Mario 64
was.
Yep.
And then other games that if they weren't, they came out almost right away. It was Shadows of the Empire.
Yes. Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey.
I remember that.
And I actually bought that because I wanted just a sports game, and I got it. And actually that game's really fun too, actually.
Oh yeah. I remember renting that game a few times. And then Mortal Kombat Trilogy.
Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Yep.
So those were some of those games that I remember right away.
Right away for the N64.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we get into the history of this one?
Absolutely. Take us away.
We gotta check it out.
Yeah.
So
gotta tell the story. Spin the yarn.
Yes. Mario Kart 64 is a 1996 kart racing game developed and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo 64. It is the second main entry in the Mario Kart series and is the successor to Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo
That's right.
Entertainment System.
That's right. The SNES.
Yes. It was released in Japan on December 14th, 1996, and in North America and Europe in 1997. It was released for the IQ player in China on December 25th, 2003. It was also released on the Wii and the Wii U's Virtual Console in 2007 and 2016,
Nice.
and on the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack on October 25th, 2021.
Yes.
Players control one of 8 Mario franchise characters who race around 16 tracks, 4 in each of 4 cups, with items that can either harm opponents or aid the user. Changes from the original include introducing 3D computer graphics, for track design, and for player support. The characters and items remain 2D sprites, but 3D track features include elevation, bridges, walls, and pits. The game was commercially successful and was generally praised for the fun and high replay value of its multiplayer modes.
Absolutely.
It is regarded as one of the greatest video games of all the times.
Of all the times. I can see that. That still has a place in a lot of people's hearts, even if they don't play video games anymore.
Yes.
Just for like, oh, I know a lot of people who are like, oh, yeah, we played this all the time in college, or we played this all the time in high school, and still have a lot of fond memories. And are like, yeah, go over good old times with this game, even now that they may be older. Now, for me, it doesn't change. I'll still play it any day of the week. But other people that are living like adults that don't play video games anymore and are, all busy with all the other important stuff of life.
That's the thing.
It's a balance. Yeah, life balance issue can be tricky.
I have like a very hot take that I used to have. I used to have that this was not the best racing game on the N64.
Oh, yes.
Yes, you probably know the one I'm going to say.
I do.
But I'm not. I'm gonna withhold that until we go over Diddy Kong Racing 64.
Sure.
Because I finally really dove into this game when we we just started playing this. So I wanna see if that holds up.
Yeah. And I really haven't played Diddy Kong Racing very much at all. So
sure,
it'll be interesting to see how we come at it when that day comes.
When that day comes, whenever we get to that game. But I definitely, with this playthrough, have a new appreciation for this game.
Nice,
so,
yeah.
But before we kind of do that, let's go into the game modes.
Sure.
We got basically the same game modes as we had in Mario Kart 1 from the SNES. We got Grand Prix, which is your standard,
pick a cup, you do the 4 races in there. Depending on what place you come in, you get a certain amount of coins. Whoever has the most coins at the end of those 4 races wins the gold cup. Second gets the silver. Third gets the bronze, and everything else gets a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
So if you come in first place in a race, you get 9 coins. If you come in second, you get 6. If you come in third, you get 3. If you come in fourth, you get 1. And that's the thing, is it adds all those up at the end. So sometimes you can be having a great run when you come in first in all 4 races and end up with the full 36 points.
Yes.
And sometimes you can have some really weird matchups where your scores and the computer scores are all over the place, and you can get first with 19 points.
That's actually how I won one of them. Yeah. Actually, believe it or not.
So you never quite know how it's going to shake.
Yes. So you got Grand Prix mode.
Yep.
You got your returning battle mode, which was in Super Nintendo.
Yep. That's always a fun mode too, because that's the one where you have the balloons. And
yes.
You can throw other items at people. You can run into other people if you're a heavier cart than them to try to break their balloons. And when you die in that mode, you turn into a little bomb that can still try to run into one of the other surviving players to take them out too.
Which is really cool. Yeah. Yes.
The only thing that I didn't like about the battle mode is that they don't have the option to have bots in the game.
Yes.
So you can only play with how many people you have, and if you're by yourself, you can't really do anything with battle mode. So
Correct.
it was fun for like sleepovers and parties and stuff where you'd have like 4 people.
Yeah.
Because then you can get into all the trash talking and
Yes, you definitely need, I would say, more than 2
Yeah.
to really get a good grasp of it.
Yeah, so that was
Yes.
one thing that would have been nice if they had bots, but again, I understand this was an early title in the N64 life there, and yeah, still, that was a lot of fun, and it has like unique maps. I think there's either 3 or 4 unique maps that are, again, unique for battle mode that you don't race on, you just use for there. My favorite one was the one with the different, like, 4 different blocks, and it had like the 4 different levels, and a green level, a blue level, I think yellow and red. And I know some other friends of mine loved Big Donut, which was another one that had like the lava in the middle.
Oh, I remember that one. Yes.
So yeah, it was some pretty fun ones there, and just to find like different ways of, taking out your opponents and surprising them, or thinking you have everything all sorted out, and then they hit you and knock you flying somewhere else. So a lot of fun there.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
No, I remember just playing that with when we did have 4 people. Usually it would be my cousins and my neighbor.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. Battle mode is really fun.
Yeah, that's obviously like the party mode of the party modes.
Yes. Yes. And you just kind of keep on going and playing it.
Yeah.
And then you have time trials.
Right.
Which is, I know we reviewed Mario Kart 1, but I can't remember if time trials was in Mario Kart 1 or not.
I think it was, but I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
As funny as that is. I never really did a lot with the time trial modes.
Yeah.
Because whenever I played, I was pretty much always, even if I was by myself, then I'd just be playing Grand Prix usually.
Right.
I understand the idea of time trials. Try to, get the best time you can.
Yes.
Beat the records, and then you could save to your, like, expansion pack or your memory card, rather, like, ghosts.
Yes.
That would, like, run your fastest time on there, whatever the fastest time, and then you could try to, like, beat that. So in a way you could like race against yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously if there's people out there, that have set like crazy world records for how fast they can go through certain stages.
And also like your ghost, it'll like mimic exactly the way you took it.
Yeah,
and
if
stuff,
you take a turn some way,
cool.
or if you spin a little bit here, you can see the whole thing. So it's pretty cool.
Yes.
I just never really did much with the time trial stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing... there's no real reason why you need to do it except for setting a record, really.
Yeah.
So,
and it was kind of like I understood the idea too that you could get a nice record, have it on your memory card, take your memory card over, your memory pack rather, and take that over to somebody else's house that has the game, and then you can upload your ghost there too. So
yes,
you can show
it off. Yeah. That is pretty cool.
Be like, oh yeah, I had a really good time on this. Someone's like calling you a liar. They're like, okay, well, I'll bring it over and prove it.
That's the thing. Memory cards, like, you don't think they were such a big deal, but at that time they were.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had PlayStation had memory cards, obviously.
Yep.
I don't know if Sega Saturn did because I never had that system. Not real familiar with it.
I didn't either, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then I think of like, earlier Nintendo games, regular and Super, that had like the actual like memory in the game.
In the actual game,
where you could actually save things right to the cartridge. So it's interesting how things really shift to this point. And if you didn't have like a memory pack or memory card, or if your data got corrupted, it was like now you're starting all the way from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I
couldn't save anything otherwise.
I actually remember like the first time that I knew I had to get one. And I was like so disappointed. I was actually playing WCW NWO World Tour.
Oh, mm-hmm.
I unlocked Randy Savage.
Yeah,
and I couldn't save him. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, it's a definite buzzkill when you realize
it really
that.
was, because that was such a foreign concept to me at that time. Because Super Nintendo, you didn't need it.
No.
So it's like, I unlocked him. I should just get to keep them, right?
Right, and then you're like,
but
turn
you
off the
couldn't
system,
do it.
it's gone. Yeah.
So I had to redo it, and I had to go out and get a memory card. So I remember this, actually. Me and my mom, like, we drove to go to the store right then. Because I was so disappointed, and she didn't want me to be disappointed.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
she drove me, and we got a memory card, and I was so happy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yep. So...
yeah, that's a very good point, how big of a shift like that was.
It was, especially to us, as like we're in grade school at that time.
Right, and
so
we're
it's
used
just-
to whatever had come before. We're not used to all
Yes.
of a sudden this big shift being made where now you
Yes.
got to have accessories to save data from games.
Yeah.
And then some of these games use a lot of blocks
They
of data too.
did.
So you almost be like, okay, now I need to go get more so I can have other saves
Saves
these
on
other
there
games.
as well.
So yeah.
So you're buying multiple at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's talk about the racers, because there's a little bit of a roster change here.
There is, yeah. In Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo, there's a couple people that didn't come back for this one, unfortunately. The ones that come to mind are Donkey Kong Jr. and Koopa Troopa.
Yes.
I think those are the only two that didn't come back for this one.
Correct.
But don't be afraid, people, because we have two new people that showed up in their place.
Yes, we do. And we have Donkey Kong.
Yes.
Not Donkey Kong Jr.,
That's
but
right.
Donkey Kong.
Traded in a onesie, and now he has just his tie.
Yes. And honestly, I think you got to give credit to Donkey Kong Country for boosting up that popularity of Donkey Kong.
Oh, sure.
Because why would they change it, right? Like Donkey
Right.
Kong Jr., they're riding the arcade waves there.
Yeah.
But Donkey Kong Country comes in there, and we've done 3 episodes on all the
We
Donkey
have.
Countries from the Super Nintendo.
That's right, check
Make
them
sure
out.
you check those out.
Yes. Because we got a lot of opinions and a lot of
Yes.
stories about those.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And but yeah, Donkey Kong comes in here riding that push that he received
That's right.
from the Super
Finally getting his
Nintendo,
push.
and they put him in Mario Kart.
Yeah.
And then you got Wario.
Yeah, which is another really interesting one because he comes in as a heavy, whereas the person he replaced, Koopa Troopa, if you was light. And Wario at this point, I'm not sure how many other games he had been in before. I know his first game was in Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins, because that was my first Game Boy game ever, and he's the bad guy in that one. So it's interesting to see him now. Branching out into this, and then how he became such a staple in all the different, sports games, like the kart games, tennis, golf, all those different things where Wario has...
Yeah, he's
really-
a fixture now.
He is, and he
Yeah.
even has his own, set of games too, the WarioWare games and Wario Land games.
Yes.
All that kind of
Yeah, he
fun
had a
stuff.
few games on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Wario's Woods,
Yes.
I believe, was another one.
Yes.
Yeah, he knew to get his brand out there.
His brand was expanding. And,
Yes.
yes.
So those are the two people who were new to this roster. Otherwise, you had your returning champions, Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, who before this had been called Princess Toadstool.
Yes, that's
But
right.
with the with Mario 64 is when they started to shift that and really let us
Yes.
know her nickname of Peach. We also have Yoshi coming back. We have Toad coming back, and of course, my personal favorite, Bowser.
Bowser, yeah, he's back. Yep. Yep. So you get most of the roster back
Yep,
for this.
just a couple
some
little
slight
swaps.
differences. Yeah.
It's interesting because at one point it looked like they were going to have Magic Koopa be one of the characters in here. Whether he was going to be in Wario's place or Donkey Kong's place, I'm not sure. But I've heard things about it, and I also remember seeing it in early Nintendo Power, where they showed like some previews of it on the character select screen. They actually had Magic Koopa on there instead of maybe Wario, which was really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Obviously, that did not make it into the final thing, and it's hard to kind of imagine 8 characters, and that would be the one you would have in there instead of somebody as now iconic as Wario or Donkey Kong. Yeah, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But even in those cases, like the Magic Koopas, Kamek, I don't know how to say his name, but kind of the named Magic Koopa has become a pretty big fixture himself in a lot of games since then. But at that point, it would have just been a bland Magic Koopa with no real name.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyways, fun little side note there.
No, that is good to see. I mean, I heard there was even potentially they were going to put Koopa Troopa back in as well. I heard so it's either going to be definitely going to be Magic Koopa or Koopa Troopa.
Yeah.
Possibly both in there. So, but for whatever reason, they just thought, let's mix it up a little bit, which is fine.
Yeah,
you want
absolutely.
differences,
Yeah, and when you don't have all that many different characters, it's cool to have a little switch here or there.
Yes.
Obviously, if I was like a diehard Donkey Kong Jr. fan, I probably would have been bummed if I came to this game and they didn't have him in.
Right.
But luckily, that was not the case, at least for me.
Yeah. He wasn't really anything. I mean, he was fine, but he wasn't one of my favorites.
Right.
Especially, I mean, after Donkey Kong Country, putting Donkey Kong is, I think that's better than Donkey Kong Jr. at that point, because it really wasn't doing much.
Yeah. Who are your favorite characters to play as in this?
So the funny thing is, when we did this, I did Yoshi the whole way through.
Oh,
so
okay.
I did Toad on the first one, and then I did Yoshi on this one. So I thought I'd mix it up.
Sure.
But I did get to play actually as a few of the heavies. I did play as Bowser, and I did play as Wario.
Yeah.
Just trying to going through it, and I enjoyed playing them as on the Bowser's Castle track and the Boardwalk Banshee Boardwalk. Those were the two that I like to use in the heavies more, actually.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to not be getting knocked around as much, especially on someplace like Banshee Boardwalk, where there's a lot of areas where you can fall into the water.
Oh yeah.
When you're the biggest character, you have much better chance of not being knocked off, and in fact knocking the computer off.
Yes.
I pretty much did Bowser through, especially at like the higher difficulties. I did at the lower difficulties, 50cc, and that I switched between a lot of the other characters for that. But once I got excuse me. Once I got over 100 to 100cc and past that, then it was just Bowser all day, every day.
Yeah. I don't blame you there, actually.
When I was a kid I played as like Yoshi and Koopa Troopa in the first one a lot.
Sure.
And Yoshi here a lot. But eventually I just started liking having Bowser, and he became my favorite Mario character, like, ever, so. And I just enjoyed being the biggest guy out there, being able to knock people around. And
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of want one or the other, right? You don't want to be in the middle, really, in this game. Yeah.
No, being in the middle, unfortunately, doesn't give you a lot of advantages, which is why Mario and Luigi, despite being kind of fun, and if they're your favorite, that's awesome. But from what I've heard, a lot of people talking about, like the highest tiers in here put them at the absolute bottom, which was surprising to me, especially considering it's a game called Mario Kart.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think Mario and Luigi would be the ones who are stinking up the joint comparatively.
You would think they would get like a weapons upgrade or something.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know.
It's interesting
so
because when you think of Super Mario for the NES, like, you as a character didn't get like the special item that each character got, but like the computer would, like Mario and Luigi, they could throw like fireballs that would be on the track.
I remember
Peach
that.
would throw the little mushroom there, which I think Toad did as well.
Yeah.
Yoshi would have the egg, all these kinds of little things here that could cause all kinds of issues for you. And that would have been kind of cool if they had given people specialized weapons in this one.
Yeah.
Particularly if you could use them yourself. Now, I know it became kind of a fixture a little bit later on, especially when you think of like Double Dash for the GameCube, where characters had like their own special one they could get. But yeah, just made me think a little bit there. I just went off on a little tangent.
Sure. Well, why don't we'll go from the lightest to the heaviest in this game.
Sounds good.
Toad is the lightest.
Yes, Toad is the lightest.
Yoshi is the second lightest.
I actually thought that Peach was lighter than Yoshi. But
that's what I thought too.
But I might be incorrect.
But I think you might be right.
Or maybe they're even equal?
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're just equal.
Yeah.
Because I have seen where Peach is lighter than Yoshi.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought. I thought when I was playing, I was able to get Peach to spin out when I would go by.
Right.
So,
especially
I don't know.
If you have like a mushroom and you're going like full speed and run into somebody who weighs the same or even sometimes a little bit bigger than you, sometimes you can still cause them to spin.
Yes. I can tell you for sure when you time the start, you only spin out when you run as Yoshi. You only spin out when you run into either Donkey Kong, Wario, or Bowser.
Oh, sure.
So no, even Mario and Luigi did not make me spin, and they're mediums. So
that's interesting.
It is interesting. I think it's like 2 ahead. You can't go 2 ahead. Maybe 1 ahead. So
right.
1 ahead you can do. So
it is fun to get that jolt at the beginning. And then make somebody spin out immediately.
Yes.
Another thing that's fun about being Bowser, or sometimes I've had other people like hit their boost right at the beginning, and I didn't hit mine because I wasn't like paying close enough attention, and then they run to me and spin out.
Yeah.
That's also pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, then you have Luigi, Mario, Wario, Donkey Kong, and Bowser's the heaviest.
Yes, Bowser's the biggest boy, I believe.
Yes. So the lightweights have high acceleration and top speed. When performing a mini turbo, they get the most speed out of it and lose less speed when going off-road.
Right.
They, next to Bowser, the heaviest character in the game, can get a huge benefit from the triple tap acceleration where they press the A button 3 times after spinning out or losing speed to accelerate quickly. Due to their stats, lightweight characters can easily be knocked aside by the heavy characters. Such an example is that Toad, the lightest character in the game, can be knocked aside by any character, even the over lightweights. In addition, lightweights have a wide turning radius. Because of this, they lose speed when turning on or off road without drifting, meaning they have the worst handling in the game. In battle mode, however, this is negated, which I did not know.
I didn't know that either. That's interesting.
The middleweight drivers, according to the instruction manual, have no extreme pros or cons. In reality, despite this description, the middleweights actually have the lowest acceleration of all 3 weight classes and share their top speed with the heavyweights. The faster a middleweight goes, the more acceleration they lose. Unlike the other drivers, whose speeds vary from kart to kart, when performing a mini turbo, middleweights drivers get the same boost as heavyweight drivers and are faster off-road than them. They also have far better handling. In addition, Mario is the heavier of the middleweights, meaning that lighter characters who bump into him will spin out sometimes, including Luigi. Third and final weight class is the heavyweight class. They accelerate much slower than the lightweights and have less acceleration than the lightweights, but they reach high speed in 2.8 seconds. Heavyweights share their top speed with the middleweights. When off-road, they lose the most speed, but lose less speed when cornering, whether they're drifting or not. They also have significantly tighter handling than others. Of the 3 heavyweights, Bowser is the heaviest and largest. He is the only non-lightweight character to recover quickly via the triple tap technique, but has a different rate of acceleration. Wario is the lightest of the heavyweights, but isn't very much less than Donkey Kong. He and DK both have the least acceleration when performing the triple tap technique. Try saying that 3 times fast. But reach their top speeds faster than both Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to unpack there. It's very counterintuitive. You would think that your smaller characters are going to have good handling, which they don't, but they have the highest top speed, which again is super like counterintuitive to what I've known from racing games for the most part. Usually it would be like your biggest character going to have the highest top speed. They're going to have slow acceleration, and then they're probably not going to have great handling. You would think that your medium character, again, is going to have, well, everything in the middle, and that your lightest characters are going to have the best handling, really good acceleration, but the lowest top speeds. And then you look into this, and it's not the case really at all.
Yeah.
Where your little characters are the fastest with acceleration, and then also still have the highest top speed. Which you think of that, and you're like, well, what the heck? So from my understanding is that a lot of people who are trying to like do speed runs and try to like break records and all that stuff, they choose the light heavyweights because of that.
Oh, sure. That would make sense. Yeah.
The thing that's interesting about like this triple tap technique thing that they were talking about too is I didn't even know that was a thing.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
actually,
I would have. I
would have been doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh! Did you know that Bowser does it better than the other heavyweights?
Wow.
Well, that's cool too. But since I didn't know it existed, I didn't really try it. But yeah, it was weird to hear that the heavyweights have like better handling. A top speed that is in line with the mediums, not with the lights.
Yeah.
The lights have a higher top speed.
Right.
Not as good acceleration, which makes sense.
Yeah.
You would expect the heavies not to have that. And then I thought that was interesting that they lose less speed when they like turn, whether or not they're drifting. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I knew if you go off road with a heavy you're not
That's
moving
not good,
it.
right.
Yeah. Hopefully
Yep.
you have a mushroom or two to use to get out of the grass or stuff like
Right.
that.
Yeah, that's
So otherwise you're
that
going to
is
lose
key.
a lot of time.
Oh, especially in the cups. Yeah.
Yeah, what did you think about the different weight classes and how they're actually represented in the game versus, what the manuals tell us?
Yeah, I just think Mario and Luigi kind of got screwed in this game. Yeah, a little bit. I just wish they could have figured out something for the mediums.
Yeah.
Because then I don't know, it seems a little too unfair. But if you want to challenge, maybe those are the characters that you pick,
That's true, too, yeah.
But not saying you can't win with them. It's just, you don't really get any advantages, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
no, absolutely.
So that's the only thing I would complain about slightly.
Yeah.
But not a huge deal. But, yeah, I guess why don't we go over the items
Let's do it.
that you're going to run into?
Yes.
So this time you go through what they basically look like question mark boxes.
Right.
Which is different from the first game. Mm-hmm. First game, I believe you had... What was the first game again? I was trying to think. It was yellow. Was it?
I actually don't remember.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's been a little while.
I'm sorry to put us both on the spot, honestly, but I just wanted to make the point that it's a little different, obviously, than what it was from this game to the first game. So
right.
Yeah, because this game is item boxes, and they kind of put them in different spots. Obviously, speaking of the item boxes, while you're looking that up, I just wanted to make note that I think this game did a really good job, actually, of not just putting the item boxes in parts that you're going to go through. Like, they actually make you go off course at times.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I was going to say, you have to veer around a little bit. It's not as straightforward as
especially like Toad's Turnpike and DK Jungle. Yes. Those are two that come off that I can think of offhand. I think there is even one in Banshee Boardwalk that they kind of make you veer off a little bit to get one. So
yeah, it can be tricky because sometimes you're like you want to go for it, and then other times you're just like, it might be more of a risk than it's worth.
Right.
Especially when you're trying to dodge trucks and cars like on Toad's Turnpike.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh.
Yeah.
It's giving me bad vibes.
But yeah, you go across, you hit your item box, and you get a random item.
Yes.
The item, depends a lot on what place you are in the race.
Yes.
If you're in last place, you're likely to get more of the game-changing kind of items than if you're in first place, where you get more of items that will help you a lot less. They're more to defend yourself than they are to, take out other people or do anything too crazy when you're in first place.
Yes. It kind of seems like most of the time you're going to get a banana.
Or like a green shell.
Green shell, yes.
Sometimes they'll give you like a mushroom, but they usually don't give you anything too gigantic.
Right. They don't want you to get out too big of a lead.
Right. Whereas if you're in last place, then that's when you can get like the lightning bolts, and you're more likely to get like the blue
lightning
shell.
Bolts are huge. Blue shells are huge.
Stars,
too.
of course, the things that
can
help you close a lot of distance quickly.
Yes. Well, anyways, I guess the first item we have is the standard mushroom, which was in the first game.
Yep.
Works pretty much the same way. Gives you a quick burst of speed.
Yes.
Can be very useful depending on where you are. You can use it to your advantage. But even better is the triple mushroom when you get this.
Yes.
So you can put those in your back pocket. Like, for instance, if you're on the final lap and you want to keep first, well, now you got 3 to use. So
exactly. You have something to help, especially if somebody tries to come flying in and surprise you.
Yes.
You've got something you can do to kind of take back the lead.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, very nice thing to have. It's also nice for being able to close over some off-road areas, be able to carve a little shortcut Otherwise, if you go on the off-road areas, you slow down so much that you will probably lose any shot of getting a first place finish if you're right at the end there. But if you have the mushrooms, you can fly across there, negate that slowing down effect that you would normally worry about, and you can make for some pretty cool shortcuts.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going off road right at the end, and then taking that shortcut and just using that mushroom, huge. Yeah. I want a couple doing that.
Oh yeah, it's always such a cool moment, especially when it's super close.
Yeah,
like just barely are able to take it.
Yeah, just take it. Now, something new for this game was the golden mushroom, and then it gives the user an infinite amount of speed boosts for a limited time, which is really cool.
Yes.
This is one you'll get at the back of the pack usually, or middle.
That's a handy one. Again, it allows you to take those shortcuts, cover some ground, catch up if you've had some mishaps happen, and it can make a big difference.
Yes. I mean, it can be a little tricky on Banshee Boardwalk.
Yes.
Because you got to make sure you don't want to use them.
You don't want to use it and fly.
So you fly off.
Yeah.
You end up hurting yourself
right.
more.
It's one of those that sometimes you find yourself hitting only in small amounts because it's not safe to do so otherwise.
Yes.
Now, if you're on something like Rainbow Road or, Luigi Circuit, you can hit a lot more because you're not having to worry about flying off the track as much.
Right.
It's more of a straight shot, and that makes it easier to do responsibly.
And then the green shell returns.
Oh yes,
this is the one where you have to actually fire it yourself and you have to aim it yourself.
Right.
So you can either go in front or behind.
Yep, and you can actually hold it behind you too if you want to use it as something to so that you can drop it when you want, but also it can protect you if someone else is throwing an item at you if it hits it. So it's useful to have. It is. It's usually one that when I get like a single green shell, I'm like, okay. Like I'm not as
happy about it. But
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also one of those items where I usually don't hold on to for super long unless I'm using it like defensively.
Yes,
because I want to be able to get another item box and get me some more items that are hopefully a little more dynamic.
Correct, and it's really useful once you have a racer hanging right behind you, and you just use it at the right moment. It's great.
It is one of my favorite things on like the higher difficulties too, because sometimes they'll just come flying out of seemingly nowhere, and you just turn a little bit, and they just run right into it, go flying back. Like not today, Wario.
Right, not happening.
Not my watch.
Oh, I missed.
That's right.
New to this game, you get the triple green shell.
Yes,
which is really good for defense.
Oh yeah,
especially when you get a banana horny race.
When there's stuff everywhere, and that's a good point because it can protect you. Those rotating shells, each one can take a hit. If an enemy runs into you, it can make them spin out. It gives you a lot of protection. You can still fire them off, but I believe you can only fire them forward if you have the triple shell.
Yes, you are correct on that. I can't go backwards.
In most cases, I don't really usually fire them. I usually let them do their own thing just by spinning around. But there's cases where you're like, okay, you gotta go all in to try to win if someone's in front of you. So there's definitely times where I've had to use it. And every once in a while, it's paid off, and I've won. But
oh yeah. I mean, it's great for defense. Sometimes the computer actually runs into him.
That is always my favorite.
Into it. But I've also noticed when you do have the triples either color, the computer doesn't race as aggressively as they normally do. They slow it up a little bit. Yeah.
I would say the green shell is better for defense, generally speaking. And our next one, the Red shell is definitely much better for offense.
Yeah, absolutely. Just make sure you have room to fire it off. Because if it does hit the wall, it's going away.
Yeah.
And then the triple red shell, well, you're generally getting that when you're behind.
Right.
So I found it's great just to kind of keep going up the ladder with it and just keep hitting everybody as you go by.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, though, what happens to me a lot is I'll hit the racer directly in front of me, and then as he's bouncing, another one of my red shells will hit him again.
Yes.
So now I'm down to one, or None.
It is tricky.
Yeah.
It's also possible to hit yourself with a red shell.
Yeah.
I still, half the time, I'm really confused by this, but if you're really close to somebody, you throw it and you speed like in front of them, sometimes your own red shell will hit you.
Oh.
It's not the best moment for your confidence, but it is pretty funny. But like you said, when you fire it, you want to make sure you have room when you fire a red shell too, because especially in this game, I've noticed they kind of really veer off to the side before they home in on somebody.
Yes, it's got to be almost like 10 yards.
Yeah.
Think of it like that. 10 yards before. So give yourself 10 yards. And if it goes straight, the better. The more straight, the better.
Right. Mm-hmm. You don't want it to be hitting up against the wall or having to go among too many tight turns if you can avoid it. Yes. Again, if you got 3 of them, that's good, but you don't want to be wasting any of them.
Right.
So use them wisely.
Wisely, yes. The next item we get is a new item for this game, and is the spiny shell.
Yes.
A powerful shell that, when fired, goes after the current leader of the race. Racers must be careful with this item as it travels in a straight line, then follows the track. If it hit a wall, it gets destroyed.
Yes. So it's what the blue shell, I mean, it is blue, but it's kind of the first version of the blue shell that usually in other games flies all the way and hits whoever's in first.
Yes.
This one still travels on the actual course itself.
Yes.
It can hit multiple people along the way if they're in the way.
If they're in the way,
And again, like it says, it can hit a wall and not do a heck of a lot of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like out of all the items in the game, that's the one that I get the least often, regardless of where I am. Like lightning bolts in this game, which we'll get to shortly, are actually pretty common.
You get them a lot.
You do.
Yes, you make up a lot of ground with them too, actually. But you are correct in that assessment. The blue shell, you're really only getting 9% of the time.
Yeah, which is interesting. I almost... Honestly, when I started playing for a while, I kind of forgot it was even in this game until randomly it actually popped up, and I was like, oh, that's right. This is the first game that has this kind of...
It comes in. It makes its debut.
It does, yes.
So Thunderbolt returns, like you were saying. It's a very powerful weapon in this game, I've noticed. You've come back pretty quickly. A lot of times I was thinking, like, oh, first is so ahead, I'm losing this race. And then I get the Thunderbolt, and I come right past first. Like, okay.
It's amazing. There's some times where I'm, like, even close enough, and I grab, like, let's say I hit an item box, and I get, like, a star. I hit the star, but I still haven't, like, made up a lot of, enough ground yet. I kind of waited a little bit. Hit an item box, get a lightning bolt, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And sometimes I actually wait to trigger the lightning bolt until I'm in like 3rd or 2nd place already.
Oh, that's a good strategy, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, if it syncs up like that, it's amazing. And then you can really get a nice lead going.
That is really good.
Yeah. I think it's everyone's favorite item to pull. It's always the most fun. It's especially fun when you can run somebody over after shrinking them.
Especially when they're going over a jump too. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're done.
That's another thing. There's plenty of races where I've had where that has been like the person who is leading. You hit that, they fall into, the drink, so to speak, and then next thing you know, they're like down in 6th, 7th place. At time of the end of the race, they don't even make the top 4, and it's just kind of funny sometimes to see how drastically the game can change.
Then we got the returning banana peel. Obviously, that's coming back from the first game, but we do have a new item.
Yes,
or items, I guess you could call it. Banana bunch.
Yeah.
So spawns 5 bananas behind the racer that can be thrown forward or backward. If another racer runs into the bunch, the bananas will spread out and the racer in question being spun out.
Yes. It's an interesting item. It's actually kind of fun to get the bunch, as it were.
Yes.
Because you can place them and try to throw them and try to trip up a bunch of people.
Yes. I like them.
Yeah.
Good defense.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it's fun to just kind of strategically think, like, where should I put these? Or can I put a bunch on there and just make it so that nobody can really avoid that? But it also sometimes I grab it and then somebody runs into it right away and the rest of it goes flying all over.
Yeah, then you lose them pretty much.
You come back around sometimes and there's so many bananas everywhere on the course and you're just like... Because you can spin over your own bananas on the next lap when you come around to it.
Right.
So that's the other thing to keep in mind when you put down, bananas or anything. It's, am I going to be able to wiggle around and get past them in the next lap? Because there's definitely times where I have screwed myself over with those kinds of items on the next lap. Been like, crud.
So then next is a new item for this game is the fake item box, an item that looks similar to the normal item box. When ran into, the racer will get thrown into the air instead of receiving an item.
Yes, the upside down question mark.
The computer, if they get ahead of you, they will throw these out like no tomorrow. Yeah. Right as you're trying to get up on them. Yep. Yes. Which is smart.
But frustrating.
Frustrating. Yes.
And if you're playing with human players, it's a great idea to put them in bunches of regular item boxes if you can. Again, remember on the next lap where you put it, so in case someone else didn't, that you don't run right into it yourself. Mm-hmm. Definitely done that before as well.
I have too. Yes. I've ran into my own stuff quite a few times. Green shells and fake item boxes.
Yes. Not hard to do.
No. Then you get the Boo returns
to
the N64. Basically, you can steal item and turn invisible, which is nice.
Yeah.
Good defense there.
Absolutely.
And then probably my second favorite item here, the star.
Oh, the star
you gotta
is
like
a lot
the
of
star.
Fun. That's another game
changer. You get a cool music, and you get to just do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Go off ground.
You go faster.
Off track. And
you can knock people around. You hit them. It doesn't matter how tiny you are or how fast the other person's going. Rather, you hit them when you got the star and they're spinning out.
Yes. They are. My favorite time to use the star actually is always by luck. It's when somebody uses the thunderbolt, but you just hit the star.
Yeah.
And it's like, can't get me.
Not today, buddy.
Yep.
One item I know that did not come back was the feather from the first
one. You're right.
Which would allow you to jump high up in the air.
Yes.
That was used for a lot of times for like shortcuts, and also you could use it to jump over like gaps and things if you were gonna fall.
Yeah, the slippery track in the dirt.
I
remember that one. Yeah, that was good to use it there.
Yeah, it was one of those that was kind of a more of a novelty thing, so I wasn't as surprised that it didn't come back for this.
Yes.
Although there are a lot of shortcuts in this game, most of them are used more off of like having mushrooms and hitting like ramps and things.
Yes. Koopa Beach, that's the one that really sticks out to me.
That's always a classic one. But yeah, those are the items of this game.
Very, very cool. I mean, I thought they did a good job there putting some new ones in, but keeping a lot of the classics in.
Yeah, so, I agree.
Really, really cool. So let's go over the cups.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do the cups. Let's start with Mushroom Cup here.
Yeah. Well, first I just want to say, too, like the cups are broken down by difficulties by CCs, which... you have 50, which is your basic.
Yep.
100, which is kind of like your medium difficulty.
Yes.
And then 150, which is your highest difficulty. But then if you get too bored with that, there's also an extra mode once you unlock the other ones. And that is a mirror mode. It flips everything.
Yes.
So it makes
some courses tough.
It does.
Really
it makes some very tricky, especially like Toad's Turnpike. But we'll get back to that.
Yes.
But yeah, so...
And the interesting thing about this game, which is different from the Super Nintendo game, is that every cup is unlocked at the start.
Mm-hmm.
And but this game also makes you have to beat the game. If you want to actually truly beat the game, you have to beat it on all CCs. Unlike the Super Nintendo, where you got the ending right after 100 CC,
right?
Which is different from this. So,
but it's kind of nice that you have the stuff open and right away, so you can kind of do things in what order you want to.
Correct. There's you're not held to a certain standard, linear path, basically. So, let's start with Mushroom Cup. We got Luigi's Raceway is the first race.
Yes.
Any thoughts about Luigi's Raceway?
Yeah, it's kind of again, being the first course, it's probably not a lot of a shock to anyone that it is kind of your most basic course.
Yes.
You're going pretty much on a big round course.
Yes.
There's a little tunnel kind of thing that you go through. There's not a lot of surprises, which is good. Mm-hmm. It's an area where you can have some fun doing...
really, the only surprise is coming out of the tunnel. Yeah. Really, that's about it.
Yeah, you can do some drifting on here because there's a lot of like slow, long turns that you can do. item boxes, there's a little item that's connected to a balloon that comes down. I don't know if I've ever actually gotten that item.
I have never gotten it. Yeah. Haven't tried, but yeah.
Again, I would be like, oh, if we had the feather from the first game, sure, it'd be easy to get. But otherwise, you just kind of have to be like zooming at the right time where it's coming down.
Yeah.
It's connected to like a big Luigi. A balloon that has Luigi's face on it. Yeah, I don't think I think it makes sense to be the entry-level course. It's not a tough one by any means.
No.
Again, if you get mushrooms here, there's certain areas where you can try to like cut across some grass.
Yes.
But yeah.
I could see that, yeah.
Not too much to say about it. Just fun little entry. Love the music. Good stuff.
It is. Second race is Moo Moo Farm.
Yes, Moo Moo Farm I thought was pretty interesting. It adds, again, it kind of goes with that similar concept as Luigi's Raceway as being, bigger, slower turns. Not a lot of like really fast, quick ones. This one does have some obstacles.
Yes.
The cows.
The cows.
And of course, Monty Moles off to the side.
The Monty Moles,
They're ones that sometimes would surprise me, even at this point. I'd be just like, I'm good, I know all this. And then I'd still sometimes run right into one.
Yeah, it kind of depends on like what you're trying to do. It's not as direct as the Super Nintendo Monty Moles.
Yes, where they like stick to you and you have to like shake them off by jumping.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's really annoying, and it's a lot easier to hit them in the Super Nintendo version.
Yes.
This version is if you're trying to get the inside, then you go over there, right. But they can be avoided if you're not trying to get the inside.
Yeah.
So,
and there's like some arches and little things that you can kind of have to go in between. So it's one of those things that if you're not paying close attention, you could clip one and slow yourself down. But for the most part, it's, again, a pretty straightforward course. Your couple of different little obstacles and just be mindful of them. And should be good.
Yeah. Koopa Troopa Beach. Now, this one, I think, is my favorite off of Mushroom Cup.
Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. It's definitely between this and the last one for this, as far as my favorites. But I think this one wins out.
Yes.
For Koopa Troopa Beach. It's got some fun shortcut areas.
Yes. There's some variations that you can take.
Just the vibe to it is fun. Certain things about it that can be tricky. The crabs are actually surprisingly easy to hit if you go too far out to the water.
Yep.
The palm trees will spin you out or stop you if you run into them. They almost look like decoration at first, and then you realize, no, these things will stop you cold.
Yep, and then you got the waves, too. That'll slow you down.
Yep, if you go too far out, that can be a problem as well. You can get stuck in the water and then have Lakitu have to come play out. There's some shortcuts in this stage, including the big one, which the giant ramp that you can...
if you get a mushroom and you get it... I only hit it once in a race that I was doing, but because I had the mushroom at the perfect time and I took it.
It's a really cool thing when you hit it, though.
Just remember coming out of the cave that I believe you got to remember. I think you go right, actually, coming out of the cave.
I'm trying to remember. I think you're right.
Yeah, because you would think you're going left because that's where you're going, like, as you go in on the ramp. But I actually think you go right, if I remember. So. Yeah. But I only hit it once. So.
It's an easy thing to mess up, too.
It is.
Try to hit it, then you run to the side of the cave, and it doesn't work out. Yeah. So it's a risky thing, but it's really cool to hit it.
Really, really fun.
Yeah, so that's a very fun stage. Again, like the music, like the vibe.
Yes.
It's very nice.
Tropical.
Yes, it's a tropical vibe.
The next one is interesting. This is probably my second favorite on here, is the Calamari Desert.
Yes.
Which is really cool because there's a train.
There is. That train that's going the whole time that you can kind of see where it is. And it times it where there's times where you'll come up to the tracks and you'll see that you have to stop because if you don't, you're going to run right into it. Which doesn't go well.
No.
So sometimes you'll have to just kind of stop, make sure you know where your brake is, hit that and wait for it to pass. Sometimes you'll see the computer will run right into it, which is interesting. Sometimes they will actually stop as well. And sometimes you can make it across.
Yes.
Unlike in real life, never try to cross before
That's right, yeah.
But in this game, you can.
You can, yeah. Especially if you get a mushroom. Yes. I love hitting it at the last second. Nobody else can do it. Yeah.
And there was one of those things, too, where I remember as a kid, you could get like mushrooms, and then you wait for the train to go, and then you try to like go into like the tunnel and everything.
Oh,
I don't know if you ever did that.
I did not try that.
Yeah.
But can you actually go in the tunnel?
You can kind of get into the tunnel area. I mean, you're gonna get hit by the train. Okay, but it was one of those things where it'd be like, oh, let's just mess around with it a little bit.
I know that there's that stretch before you hit the finish line where you're kind of going. You can't really see in front of you much, but you can hit. It's kind of veers to the left, then back to the right, and then straight again. So there's a lot of turns at that final part.
There are, and it's easy like to overdo it or to not do to underdo it.
Yes.
And then there are those cacti off to the side in certain areas. If you hit them, they'll obviously slow you down. And going off road, in most areas, will slow you a lot down. In this stage, you definitely notice that if you go off road.
Yes.
And again, I was playing as Bowser, so as a heavier weight class, they tend to go slower.
Yes. At least the cactuses don't move in this game, correct?
No, they don't.
Not like in the Super Nintendo version.
Right.
Yeah.
They stay in a spot, and you don't have to worry about that, at least. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just got to be careful with those turns on that final stretch.
That's right.
But yeah, I feel like, again, perfect opening cup, the mushroom cup.
Yeah.
Overall, it's a nice one to kind of ease in and warm you up for some of the trickier ones.
Correct. And you get a little bit of variety with the different scenery and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Agreed.
Mushroom cup, not too hard, obviously.
Yeah.
Flower cup, let's go into here. Let's talk about normal Turnpike.
We'll do all the extra stuff.
Yes.
The mirror motor, extra, whatever you want to call it. We can do that after we've reviewed all the cups themselves.
Sure. Regular Toad's Turnpike.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is tricky, though.
It is.
Because it really is. You don't realize at first how easy it is to veer into the path of something else.
Absolutely.
Or even when you think you're safe.
Right.
You realize, you're getting clipped.
Yep, you're getting clipped. And sometimes you just tight spots that you try to get in there, and but sometimes it's... You can't.
Yeah, and there's cars.
You think
and
you
trucks.
can, but you can't.
Yes, exactly. They have all different sizes.
They're always moving. I think this is one of the when you first popped in this game and you saw Toad's Turnpike, it's like, oh my goodness, this is something. Yeah,
that was like the one we always wanted to start with. Everybody's like, we want to do this one because we want to do Toad's Turnpike right away.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's a new concept for the game.
You just have to kind of plan a little bit for where you want to grab your items, and sometimes realize it's not worth trying to make a big shift and then getting hit by one of the semis when you try to get an item box. But and the computer too, you got to watch for them because they might bump into you and knock you into something, or who knows,
knock you in the big old semi.
Yeah, which is no fun.
Which turned out to be the semi driver from WCW NWO Revenge. Who would have thought? What?
Yes. The classics. But yeah.
Then we go to Frappe Snowland.
Yes, Frappe Snowland.
Frappe Snowland.
That's where we get our nice caffeinated dessert-like drinks.
Oh, Frappe Snowland. This one is, it was frustrating at first for me because I kept running into the snowman.
Yep.
A lot of times.
This is one where I actually did so much better in the mirror mode on this one because the way things were flipped, I just completely went to the other side, which normally would be was my instinct to go to the side.
Yes.
But in the normal mode, that's where all the snowmen were.
Yes.
In the mirror mode, they were on the opposite side, so then I was fine. I'm like, oh, this is easy now.
Yeah.
It was one of those funny things where
I think actually placement, that's how, because in the normal, you're going left. When you hit that giant, 20 different snowmen. Yeah. In mirror mode, you're going right.
Yeah.
So.
And it was funny. I went kind of did my normal inclination, and I just completely, I probably slowed me down a little bit, but it didn't, spin me out or knock me out, and I did fine.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so much easier this way. But yeah, the snowmen were a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they are. And then there's that bridge part at the end. Well, there's a lot of turns, and then the bridge part before the finish line.
Yep.
So
and you go, in between, almost in that little, canyon-y kind of ice area.
Yes.
So that's areas where it could be tricky to keep the lead and not to get...
And there's a few snowmen along the way as well that you watch out for. But this is a fun course because a lot of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
I think it's a little less frustrating than the Super Nintendo one where they had the snowmen on there because it was you would hit them and then they would disappear. But There was a lot of them. It was like a game of pachinko or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Plinko.
Plinko, yeah.
Yeah.
So then the third one in Flower Cup is Choco Mountain.
It's interesting because this one I remember as a kid, like, hating this one. Like, I love the idea of it, but I found it really difficult as a kid.
Yeah.
This one still took me a little time to warm up to. The falling chocolate rocks or whatever boulders could catch me off guard. Sometimes if I was trying to turn too much or try to take turns too quickly, I could go flying off the side.
The cliff, yep.
This was another one where...
Super tight turns.
Yeah, super tight turns. This was another one where I actually feel like I did better in the mirror mode or the extra mode of it than I did in the regular one.
The regular.
I don't know why. I guess it was just my natural inclination, the way I wanted to turn during this.
Yeah, because like
if
you do better turning right versus left, then you know, it's just... I don't know.
But yeah, this was one that I remember being very frustrated as a kid in particular.
I had some issues with this one. I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky and it's easy to get knocked out of the way or have someone bump you at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
That can just go to crap. You get hit into a wall.
Yes.
You can, sometimes even if you're going fast, you can hit a wall just a certain way and it can just stop your momentum and make you like spin. You can fly off the side and then have to get picked up by Lakitu.
And then you got the 3 jumps at the end.
Yep.
So you got to hit those correctly.
Right. And you don't want to get squashed by a boulder along the way for any of that. So, yeah, I would say that was probably the first stage that I would say I really noticed like feeling like it was difficult.
Yep. I agree. And then to end it, we had the Mario Raceway.
Yeah, which is another funny thing because the race itself isn't like super hard.
Yeah,
but you know, with the big pipes and everything, are like the things that stand out to me. And there's a couple like little like kind of curvy lines there, but otherwise, it's one out of all the stages, it's probably the one that I often like don't remember the most about.
Yeah.
Even like Luigi's Circuit, I feel like I remember better than Mario's Circuit for the most part, other than just the big pipes.
Yes, I remember the pipe. Yeah, the pipe. This one's I mean, is a decent, difficulty to it. I'm not gonna say it was easy. Royal Raceway though is definitely out of the 3, that one's the toughest one, I think. But yeah. But this one gets a little tougher.
Yeah, you can use mushrooms and stuff to try to make up some ground and cut across in certain areas, which I definitely have had to do sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flower Cup definitely raises the difficulty a little bit.
Oh yeah.
There's a couple of tricky little spots to get used to, more obstacles. Yeah, so it helps get you prepared, but it does have its moments that can be frustrating, especially when you're getting acclimated to the new courses.
Yes. So then you go to Star Cup.
Yes, Star Cup.
This one's a lot of fun, actually. I mean,
I think Star Cup might actually be my favorite of the cups.
I could see that.
It's got Bowser's Castle.
There you go. Yeah, that is. Oh man, it's frustrating but fun.
Yeah.
Wario Stadium. Love this one.
Yes.
It's like so many jumps, so many turns. So much time. It's a long race.
It is. It's besides Rainbow Road, I think this would be the longest course.
I could believe that.
Yeah.
Yep. I can believe that.
I like it. I think it's actually a really fun one to do as a heavy because of the way the turns are.
Yes.
You can really get some really good drifting going in there.
There's a lot of opportunity to crush people too.
Yes.
In that one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
And there's that jump at one point where you have to go across, and that's one where sometimes shenanigans can happen and can get completely screwed over. Hopefully you're the one doing it to a computer, not having it happen to you. That can be frustrating.
Right.
But if you get a lightning bolt and hit it at the right time,
send
some people back to
raging.
square one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Second one, Sherbert Land. Now this one can be frustrating if you keep hitting those penguins. Yep.
Like, I love the stage, but if I'm having a bad run in it, it can be super frustrating because those penguins, they're always moving.
Yes.
And there's so many different ones, so you can catch it and you can spin out. I've had it happen where not only have they caught me to spin out, but knocked me then into the water, where if you get knocked into the water, you're in ice, and then Lakitu has to pull you out.
And then you have to unthaw.
And you have to unthaw from the ice. So there's a lot of opportunities to get slowed down.
Yep.
There's some areas where there's like cracks in the ice, and part of me always tries to like make a little tiny bounce to jump over it.
Yes.
And if you screw that up, you're going to end up like in the water.
In the
if you
water.
don't screw up, you get like maybe like a point of a second or something.
Faster, yeah.
But it just feels cool.
It feels cool when you can make that jump. I
Yeah.
agree. Obviously, the handling here is a little more slippy because you're on the ice. So
Right.
It's a difficult course, but the main part where I made a lot of ground up was in the cave.
Yeah.
Where you have the circling penguins.
Right.
If you go the right way, a lot of times the computer gets stopped by them.
Yes.
Which is actually really cool because in Super Nintendo version, it seemed like nothing phased them. But in N64 version, they get hit a lot more than you think they do.
Which is cool. Helpful for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the penguins are tough to even when you kind of know their pattern, it's just a matter of what the timing is when you go there. But if you know where they are and you can kind of stick certain paths and try to like hug the walls a little bit more, then you have a better chance of getting past them.
Then you're pretty good, yeah. All right, then your favorite one, Royal Raceway.
Oh man,
this one is tough. I'm not gonna lie.
It's one of those that seems like it shouldn't like that seems like it's going to be super easy, and I think that's what always happens is it kind of lulls me into a sense of false security with some of the turns that I have to take. And there's turns, especially towards the end, where if you take things a little too sharply, you can fall off into the water. And once you start falling down, like it's so hard to get back up, especially as a heavy. Mm-hmm. You're going into the drink, and there's been so many times where I have like was leading the race the whole way through, and then had something like that happen at the very end. I end up not even making the top 4 because of that, and then I have to
at
retry.
The end, it's super easy. It's that ending. That ending just is killer. Coming off those super sharp turns, and it really makes you. Sometimes you gotta slow down because you just don't know which way you're going.
That's the thing that I've learned too. Sometimes you just gotta slow down. Mm-hmm. There's a fun little Easter egg in this game, in this course rather too, where you can actually go drive by Peach's castle from Mario 64.
Yes.
Doing this will definitely lose you the race, but it can be fun to do a little exploration.
Yeah.
Just kind of go out there and have a little fun.
Yeah. There's a little Easter egg. Who doesn't like that? And then the final race for Star Cup is Bowser's Castle.
Bowser's Castle,
Woo!
yes. I have a love and hate relationship with this one.
Yes.
My big thing, obviously, as a Bowser super fan here, I love the theme. I love that it's his home field advantage there.
Yes.
But there's so many things. Those thwomps are so annoying.
Oh.
They can get right in your way.
Yeah.
There's ones where they move back and forth, and they seem to always be, no matter who's out there with me with all the other computer carriers, they always seem to hone in on me. And they can knock you around, spin you out, and sometimes they can still, even after they've knocked you out, be like right in your face, so then you're trying to get past them.
It really holds you back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have to do some kind of sharp turns sometimes. Yeah. Right after that, there's lava to the side, so there's a lot of areas where things can get crazy. Especially
when you're going up the castle. Mm-hmm. And I just could never feel like I was gaining any ground on that part for whatever reason. I tried the power slide.
And that's the thing, even doing a power slide, I feel like I still would end up hitting into the wall. So then I'm sliding and then just jumping.
Yes.
And that seemed like the only way I could get through that without running into the wall. And before you get even to that part where you're climbing up, there's that courtyard area and the bushes off to the side.
Yeah.
You think you're going to be able to go right through them. No, they will stop you.
They'll stop you. Yeah, that part. Oh, that part, I went into the lava a couple times there, too. Yeah.
And another funny thing about this one is this is a stage that felt so much easier to me in mirror mode than it did in regular mode again.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's just funny how that is. It's... For whatever reason, it just felt so much easier to me that way. But
no, I totally get what you mean with the courtyard, with the bushes. You'll spin out. Yeah. That sucked. Oh.
That can really cost you a lot of time.
All right, so that's the end of Star Cup. I think Star Cup's pretty hard, actually.
It is. Yep. I feel like it's a pretty good jump from Flower Cup to Star Cup.
Absolutely. In difficulty. I'd actually argue Star Cup's more difficult than Special.
I kind of agree, honestly.
Because the reason why I say that... Yoshi Valley is tough, I guess, because of all the different ways you can go.
It's more of a gimmick. Yeah,
it's a gimmick. But if you got the gimmick down, it gets pretty easy. Whereas I think you can know Bowser's Castle, but you'll never know what's actually going to happen because of the way the thwomps are going at a certain time.
Exactly. Yep. I think that, I agree. I think that Bowser's Castle is probably the hardest last course of any of them. Rainbow Road in this version is not...
It's not that bad.
No. In Super Nintendo, it was tough because you could knock off the sides. You could go flying off the sides. Here, there's an actual rail
keeping you in. Yeah.
It's pretty hard to fly off of it unless you're like on one of those big hills and you're going fast and you kind of fly down like really, or like not even fly down fast, but kind of slow sometimes.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll get to that one.
Yeah. I mean, look at that. I mean, Wario Stadium for most parts pretty easy, but then you go from Sherbertland to Royal Raceway to Bowser's Castle. I think that's a tough 3 right there.
I agree.
So, all right, Special Cup, DK's Jungle Parkway. I love this.
This is a very fun one.
Very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun.
There's a couple of areas where you have to really turn. Like when you go over the ramp and you're coming down, or not the ramp, but over, well, I guess kind of the ramp, and you like fly by like the cruise ship and then land and you kind of gotta really turn.
Yes.
To keep going.
I love the cruise ship when it's coming by.
Oh my gosh, cool. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. I love
visually appealing too. I remember looking at it for the first time. It was just unbelievable.
I love the cave there at the end where you can kind of
cave is really cool, and if you got a mushroom and you can go up the side of the cave
go
and just
fly
boom,
up.
There you go.
Yeah, and it just has a really cool environment, really cool feel to it.
Yes.
It definitely really makes you feel Donkey Kong Country.
It does. And then there's item boxes in there too that make you kind of veer off. So there's another like, do I need it or don't I need it?
And it's interesting because it's so close to the end of like the lap.
Yep.
Or end of the race if you're on the last one where you're like, okay, sometimes that's like your last hope to get that last little bit to try to take first.
Yeah. The next one is Yoshi Valley. Now, this is a very gimmicky course.
Yes, this is the one where you has 2 big things that are gimmicky about it.
Yes.
First one is you don't know what place anyone's in.
Yes.
It doesn't show you like it normally does for other races where you can see where everyone is in the standings, so at least the top 4.
Yep.
In this one, everyone's just got a question mark.
Yeah, yep.
Which is really annoying.
Yep.
And then the second thing about it is that it has all these different little winding paths. So when you're first learning it, you're not going to know which way to turn. Mm-hmm. And you can keep turning. Like the game will keep letting you split in different directions, but you figure out what the faster paths are through time and practice.
Yep, exactly. The funny thing is, mirror mode, I found the best way you could go in mirror mode, which is so weird.
That's funny.
But, Yoshi's Valley, I actually didn't have too much difficulty. It's easy to fall off the ledge in some spots, and you can hit the giant egg that's blocking the bridge. But
that's flying around. Sometimes I get so focused on the egg, I don't even realize where the bridge like that. That the egg can block is.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh crap, I need to move like over here because I'm so worried about the damn egg.
Oh yeah. And then if you go to one of the shortcuts, you get those like little, what do they call those? They're like the little black, like spiky things.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They almost look like something from Super Mario Brothers 2.
Yes. I was going to say
porcupine looking guys.
I think they might be them.
They might be, yeah.
But it's a like, so if you find the best route, you're gonna find those little spikes, spiky guys, whatever they're called. Yeah. But they can make you spin out. Not terrible though. It's like a banana peel.
Right.
So it's not like hitting an item box or something.
Yeah.
So
and like you said, there's areas where you can fall off. There's areas where there's no like side rail.
Yep.
To keep you hemmed in. Especially.
There's parts, absolutely. Yeah. There's parts that can frustrate you, and if you're playing against other people. I mean, they're relatively good racers. I mean, you're going to have a good race, to use. You'll use the track to your advantage. Let's put it that way. So
one thing I think is interesting about it, too, is that you won't know what places people are in until they actually start passing the finish line, and then it will show you. So that can be a little bit of a rude awakening, especially if you're not sure if you're taking the right paths and then think you're doing really well. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap, I'm like fourth place.
Correct.
I thought I was crushing this thing. So that can be a little bit trickier to plan for. Sometimes when you need to make up ground.
Yep.
But you got to race a little more aggressively.
Yes.
And this time you can just be and not realize that, oh yeah, crap, I'm not in first right now.
Then the third one in Special is Banshee Boardwalk. Now, I think this is the toughest one of Special.
I think this is the toughest race in the game,
Yeah.
to be completely honest.
It's so,
as bad as Bowser's Castle can be.
Yeah.
This one I feel like just takes forever to feel comfortable with.
Yep.
So I think
I could see that. Plus the lighting on the bridges.
Lighting on the bridges. There's not a lot of space. Some of these turns take a little getting used to, especially there's one where there's some item boxes and then you have to kind of go and there's no railing on either side.
Yes.
On this little pretty small area, and then you got other people bouncing around you, so it can be really easy to fall off. Especially when you get on higher difficulties where the computer is constantly on your back.
Oh yeah.
You can start to it can make you feel like you have to race more like aggressively too, which then increases your chances of flying off and falling into the water or taking the turn with the bats and everything incorrectly and getting kind of stuck in front of yourself, just bouncing back and forth off of walls.
I actually thought the castle part in this one is like probably the easiest part in there because it's only the bats coming at you really, and as long as you remember where you're supposed to go with the turns,
right?
But once you get out onto that boardwalk, it's like it's very frustrating. So
I love this. I love this stage once I've gotten acclimated to it, then I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah,
but man, it's a pain in the butt getting used to it.
It's a big learning curve.
And very frustrating. I did that. I've raced that so many times.
Yeah, me too.
Before I finally got first in it.
This was one where I would be like, I'm okay taking third. I'm okay taking second or fourth even. Yeah. I'll take first in the other three and see what happens, But I was okay with just wherever.
Yeah, just getting through it.
Yep, exactly. And then the final race on Special Cup is Rainbow Road, which we kind of talked about earlier. It's easier than the Super Nintendo version.
I agree.
The only thing that's really going to hurt you in this one is the jumps going off the giant, drop the drops and the chomps.
Yes,
the chomps on the chain.
And the chomps.
And they're going from left to right. So you don't really know when you're going to see them or when you're going to meet them.
Right. And the way they angle can make it hard to know where to be. I think I have the hiccups. But basically, you'll see them, you'll spot them, and you'll think you know where they are, but they keep moving.
Yes.
And they can end up right in your path and bite you right when you think you're about to pass somebody else or something.
Right.
So that can be tough and can be very frustrating. Other than that, the race itself is pretty easy.
It is.
It's just long.
It's very long, but yeah, you're right. It is easy. I believe the race actually takes you at least 5 minutes to complete.
Yeah, I think so. I'm trying to remember when I did it last, but I want to say like every lap takes probably about close to 3 minutes. That something like that. Oh, these hiccups.
Hey, it's live. It's live, baby.
That's right. This is live podcast.
Live podcasting. Anything can happen.
That's right.
But yeah, no, Rainbow Road was not hard, and I was actually relieved once I got past Banshee Boardwalk.
Oh, yeah. Once that was done, I was just like, hallelujah.
So before we go on to our categories with ranking the game, any of the mirror modes that you want to talk about, the extra mode for these courses?
I think Toad's Turnpike we have to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because now the cars and vehicles, are all coming at you.
Yes.
Whereas in the normal mode, you're going with traffic.
Yep.
Here, traffic is going at you.
Yep.
And because everything's flipped too on top of that, it makes it trickier to get items. I mean, I did not get many items there because every time I thought I was going to go get one, I usually end up getting hit by something because I'm on the opposite side of where it normally was. Where the game would want me to be. And then I try to cross over. I found it was a lot more difficult to avoid the cars.
And when you get hit by one, There's generally 2 behind it.
Exactly.
You get it 3 times. It's just crazy.
And you're trying to like move and try to get out of the line of the next one. But you move so slowly, especially after you've just gotten bashed by one.
Oh, it was brutal.
Yeah, there were times where I felt like I was racing the quote-unquote perfect race as far as avoiding the cars was going, and then get hit by something right at the end and lose places. So this is one where I'm like, I don't need to get first.
Right.
I'll take 4th if I have to.
Yeah.
And then just really,
and just crank it up with the other 3. I agree.
Exactly, yeah. That was a tough one. Well, that's the toughest one.
Yeah, by far. Bar none.
Yeah.
Bar none.
Yeah.
Toughest.
I'm trying to think. Royal Raceway was tough for me.
Yeah, Royal Raceway.
Because those turns had fallen into the water. Into the water.
Yep. Actually, I thought Koopa Troopa Beach was actually kind of tough for me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the way that they, change everything up,
yeah,
it really threw me off because that's one where that course you're taking a lot of different turns to begin with.
Yeah.
And then when they change it up on you, it just, I don't know, it messed me up for some reason. I still got first after a couple tries.
Yeah.
But, that one for some reason messed me up. I don't know why.
Yeah, I could see that. The veering, and you get so used to the way you want to take your turns, and it can be wider turns somewhere that it's hard to shut that off and be like, no, I got to go the other way. The other way. Other than that, even ones that are normally tough courses like Banshee Boardwalk and Bowser's Castle, I actually felt more natural to me backwards.
Yeah.
So it
I
didn't
agree.
really cause
some got easier in extra mode,
which you wouldn't think. But
no, like Yoshi Valley, I thought got easier for some reason for me. I actually found the best way to go in that one.
Yeah.
DK's Jungle, I didn't really have problems with, but Banshee and Bowser's Castle, I did way better in extra mode than I did in.
Yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
And then there's ones like Rainbow Road or Luigi's Turnpike.
Yes.
Not Luigi's Turnpike. Luigi's Raceway.
Yes.
Like or Wario's Stadium, where I barely even recognized that I was backwards.
There was a difference, right? It was just the same.
Yeah. Like, well, we're just going slowly in a different direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't hurt it at all. Didn't make it harder at all.
Yeah.
In those cases. So yeah, I thought that's kind of funny. I feel like mirror mode in other versions has been a lot more difficult for me than it was in this one.
There wasn't a mirror mode in Super Nintendo, was there?
I don't remember.
Okay, I don't think there was.
I don't think so. But
I think once
we have to listen to our own damn podcast.
I know.
On that one.
Yeah, go back, damn it! It was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, we were so young then.
We were just beginners,
wide-eyed and bushy tailed and all that stuff.
Right.
But yeah.
So that's all the courses for the Grand Prix. And then you get a new title screen, by the way, once you get to extra mode.
You do, yes.
Yep, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like you're in the desert one. The battle courses, we kind of went over it, but I'm just going to go through them. Big Donut, Block Fort, Double Deck, and Skyscraper. I think my favorite is actually Skyscraper. I really like that one a lot.
I think my favorite is probably Block Fort.
Block Fort's a good one.
Yeah.
Double Deck's interesting, too. Donuts.
Big Donut was more fun just because of the novelty of it. And how there's, the lava in the middle, but it also makes it feel like there's a lot less course, because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Block Fort was my favorite.
Block Fort is a really fun one to play.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's a lot of different elements to it. All right. Let's... that's once you do all that, you've beaten Mario Kart 64.
Yes.
Let's go with the graphics.
Graphics, yes. So this is always a fun thing for me too, looking at Nintendo 64 graphics. Because at the time, I mean, my gosh, they were just something revolutionary. Hiccup's still there. And it really felt like a big jump from the way graphics were for the Super Nintendo era, even though that had its own charm as well. I really do like the graphics in the game. Obviously, you can see things that may not have aged as well, like a little bit of details and textures. But in a way, I almost actually kind of find that endearing in its own way. So I would say, after my rambling session is done here,
That's all right.
I'm going to give the graphics a B-. I really like them a lot. I think there's a lot of cool scenery. There's a lot of cool scenery, a lot of cool items. It's cool to see the different characters, especially like on the character select screen.
Yeah.
And you get to see them like blinking and everything. Click on them and then they, move, and you get to see really some of the cool capabilities of the N64.
Okay.
Yes, there are a couple of things that areas that are weird, like when you are playing the game and racing, and then you see in certain things, like in Luigi's Raceway, where you can see like your character on like the screen,
Yes,
and it looks just a little laggy and stuff. So it's a little weird, but that's a pretty small complaint that I have. But yeah, I like it. I think it has its own unique style that almost feels like claymation-y sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the graphics were awesome in this one. I think the level design was just amazing, and I think it was very groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I think of the, kind of everything else, I think the graphics were just unbelievable. I got to go... From where it was for Super Nintendo to now, I got to go 9.3 out of 10.
Oh, wow, nice.
Going really high with that, because I think they were just...
I respect that.
Some of those courses were just really gorgeous to look at.
Yeah,
so.
And a lot of nice variety, too.
Yep. All right, let's go sound.
Sound, I think... sound was great. I loved being able to hear the different characters talking, again, on the screen when you start it, and they go... Welcome to Mario Kart. And then when you click on the different characters on the character select screen, all that kind of stuff is really fun. When people pass you and they make sounds, or, when you pass them and you get to hear your characters make sounds, it's pretty fun. That's great. I love a lot of the music in the game, too. It just really is immersive and puts you in a place where it gives every stage a real special, unique feel to it.
Yes.
Even ones that have like a classic, more racing kind of soundtrack to it, like your Luigi and Mario Raceway, as well as some of the cool ones when you get like the actual Bowser's Castle, where you hear more of the dun dun dun.
Yes.
So I think that's great. I love the sounds of when you throw an item and when you hit somebody with an item. It's very satisfying to hear like the crunch sound from a turtle shell, or when you smush somebody after they've been lightning bolted. The important things. So yeah, I love the music in this. I am going to give it a B.
All right, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I think that sounds really good. There's, like you said, basically you summed it up. Some of the tracks that I really, really like is the Koopa Troopa Beach one.
Oh,
that's a really good one. The DK Jungle Parkway.
Yes.
Rainbow Road's great.
That has such a fun, like, epic kind of feel to it.
That one's awesome. Overall, like, there's so many good songs and sounds in this game. I'm gonna go an 8.5.
Okay.
Yep, 8.5 on that one.
I like it.
Let's go difficulty.
Difficulty, yes. I feel like there's actually a pretty good difficulty curve the way that it's set up in this game.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they break it into the different CCs like they did for, Super Mario Kart as well.
Yes.
So that you can get used to it in a way that's more incremental. You're not just jumping into the deep end right away. By doing all the 50 CCs first, you can get used to even more of the more difficult tracks, like your Toad's Turnpike or your Bowser Castle, and of course the infamous Banshee Boardwalk. So getting used to the courses, this by being on the lower difficulty will help you get ready. So when you move to 100cc, which again feels like a big jump from 50, I shouldn't say it feels like a big jump. It feels like a bigger jump going from 50cc to 100cc than it does going from 100 to 150cc.
Right. Right.
So you get used to that, and then you can take on some of those more difficult courses. And then when you finally move up to the next CC, you feel much more ready for it. Mm-hmm. You don't feel like overwhelmed to the point where you're like, oh gosh, I'm never going to be able to do this.
Right. Yep.
And then once you've done the 100cc stuff, again, moving to 150cc, yeah, it's more difficult than 100, but it doesn't feel like as big of a disparity as it would, or as it did moving from 50 to 100. And then extra just kind of feels like it almost doesn't even really feel like it's a different difficulty as much as it just feels like, oh, here's like a little cherry on top of the sundae at the end.
Little twist, yeah.
So it gives you a little different feel there, and that can be difficult too. The 150cc. I mean the extra, just because it really depends on how used to the courses you are, and if you're so like almost have that muscle memory where you feel like you're always going to be turning a certain way, I could see how that could make it difficult to switch over.
Sure. Yep.
But in some cases, it actually seemed to help.
Yeah.
Again, there's certain courses that seem like they were either just as, the same difficulty or even easier in some cases.
Right.
So I like the way they handle the difficulty. I like, again, the replay value you get by being able to just play with different people, try different things out, try different difficulties, play with friends. That will always add new aspects of difficulty with it. It's always a classic to be able to play the Grand Prix mode and then play with like a friend, and then you have both of you and then all the 6 computer players in there, and that always adds different kinds of challenges and things that are hard to predict. So yeah, I think the difficulty where points can be a little bit frustrating. I never felt like I'm never going to be able to get this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And which is a sign for me for a good game, a game that constantly is challenging you, but also not frustrating you to the point where you're like, okay, I just, no.
Yeah.
So I think they really handle the difficulty well,
yeah.
Doing it the way they do it. I am going to give it a 9.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, difficulty for this. I didn't ever really think it was that hard. There were moments on 100cc where I had trouble with Bowser's Castle a lot.
Sure.
So there were moments, but yeah, it was never longer than not even like an hour really. I just kept on going, and eventually I got it. Sure, I had to redo a few times, but I always had fun. Even when I lost, I was still, I was upset a little bit, but I just went right back in and did it again. And it's still fun.
To jump right back in, And I guess I want to quickly just amend what I mean. When I said 9, I don't mean 9 that it's like, a really difficult game.
Oh, sure.
I mean 9 of like the quality of the way they ramp the difficulty and how they handle it.
Sure.
If I was talking from like a pure, like how difficult I think the game is, I would say 7.5.
Okay. Yeah.
Or so in my rankings, because I like to give my maths.
Yes.
Or my letters. I said 9 before on the first one. That's interesting. I'm mixing my stuff up a little bit here. I would say a C plus for difficulty as far as how hard I think it is and the way that it handles the difficulty and ramping and everything. That I would say I would give an A minus.
All right.
Okay.
That's cool.
Sorry,
no, that's fine. No, that's good you clarified.
Yeah.
I'm going to go difficulty. I will say yeah, it's hard. Do you score it the way you said, or do you score it the way how difficulty you think it is?
Yeah.
I'm going to go a 6 out of 10. Okay. I'll just go my standard, because I don't think it's that difficult.
Right.
But it's difficult enough, I guess, to keep you on your toes. Yeah. But it's not frustrating. I liked it. It's one that you can just keep on going through. So
yeah,
that was really nice. And now you were kind of talking about the replay value. That was our next topic. So.
I feel like these kinds of games, Mario Kart games in general, have a lot of replay value. And it's funny because even if you're not looking to necessarily unlock a lot of things, like a lot of them, like Mario Kart 9, you'd race, you'd unlock more customizable things for your vehicles and everything. So you get like new tires, all that other things. You could get new characters. But even in a game like this where you don't really have any extra unlockables other than just getting the mirror mode, the extra mode, I still feel like it's a game that you can just pop in any time and play and have fun with.
Yes.
Even if you're not really like trying to unlock anything. And of course you have the whole idea too of, do I want to do time trials? Do I want to see how fast I can do? Do I want to just screw around? Do I want I have a friend come over, let's play. Let's just jump on and play and see how it goes. You get a bunch of people together. You can play battle mode. You can do that stuff. I feel like it's a game that even if you take like a little time away from and come back to, you can find yourself, pulled right back into it again. Because it's a quick, casual experience, you don't have to invest heavy amounts of time into it. So you can sit down and play, do a cup. Take you about, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour tops, and then
if
you're
that.
good.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not like sitting down and having to do this big time investment. So I feel like it has a lot of replay value that way, when you can jump in and play something quick. And this is what N64 in general, I feel like, has been really good at. It has a lot of, the kind of party games, including the Mario Party games, but also, the WCW and WWF games on there, the THQ engine, a lot of that stuff where you can just jump in and have a lot of fun with it. And that gives it a replay value that I feel like is pretty high up. So for my replay value, I am going to give this bad boy a B.
All right. I think anybody who kind of grew up with the N64, the N64 defined the 4 players to me.
Oh yeah,
they really did. I know, like, you get multi taps for PlayStation and Super Nintendo, but N64 was really the first system, in my opinion, with built-in.
Yeah,
and it just designed a lot of its games for 4 players. Yeah, and I think this is the first time you could play Mario Kart 4-player, I believe.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Unless there was some weird thing I didn't know about.
In Super, yeah.
Like over in Japan, there were other settings, but to my knowledge, I don't think so.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So this game, to me, with the replay value was, I think anybody comes over and they play somewhat video games, they're going to play Mario Kart and they love it.
Yeah, even people who, like you say, don't really play video games a lot, like... A lot of them, have a fondness for the Mario Kart games, and just love to play and jump in and
play.
Yeah, and plus, it's never going to get old and never not going to be fun. Bashing somebody with a red turtle shell or
there's so much that can go. The experience is always going to be different. Yeah, so that's what makes it cool. Plus the cups and all that. So I know when you do play 4 players, you can't play against the computer, but. You learn to live with it, I guess. So but as far as replay value, I'm gonna give it an 8.8. I think it's really high. Yeah, there's always things to do. Sure, they could have had more options, but we'll get into that. Right. So I'll give my take first for the overall. And then we'll go to you.
Sounds good. Take us away.
Yes. Overall, I think the game is really good. I think it improved upon the original quite a bit. Yeah. Would I have liked more unlockables? Yes, I would have. Sure. I'm not even really that upset about the racers. But, I mean, if they could have did 10, I think that would have been perfect. But I'm okay with the 8. But the course designs were just amazing. I think they really nailed it there. The gameplay obviously is super fun, super good. It's not too difficult. I think you're always going to have a fun time playing with friends, like you said. And battle mode is great. I mean, I always play it with everybody, and they always have a fun time with it. So. Even though, despite, I still got to play Diddy Kong Racing 64 because I really want to do a comparison, with, which I think is the better game. But as far as like racing mechanics go, this game might be better in that regard.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted a little more unlockables, I guess. Sure. So overall, I think this is a great game. It holds up well. It keeps basically everything from the original and improves upon it. Level design is great. Difficulty, the weapons are so cool. The music's great. So overall, I'm going to give this game an 8.9 out of 10.
Nice. Okay.
All right. The floor is yours.
So, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I feel like this game has a lot going for it, and especially thinking of how early it came in the N64 time or lifespan. I think it's really, really shows how much they could do and how much they really came through. One of the interesting things about it too is that I have to keep that in mind sometimes is that it was earlier on because there's things that would have been really cool for them to be able to add on to it. It would have been nice to be able to have bots for like battle mode. Yes. So you could play it with, another person and still have like a full 4 or even play it by yourself. Mm-hmm. That would have been really cool. Mm-hmm. It would have been nice to be able to, like you mentioned too, do the Grand Prix with 4 human players and still have the other 4 computer players like being controlled there so that you could do it the same way, not just have it be 4 human players doing everything. Which again, those are kind of small complaints for me, although when I was a kid, they were bigger ones because, come on, I wanted to have those features, but I get it. It's still early on, but those are like my really kind of my only real complaints about the game overall.
Yeah.
It's a game that you can just jump into. It ages like a fine wine. It's a game that you can, get a group of together, people who don't play a lot of video games even, and they'll still be able to enjoy it. People who play a lot of video games will also like it because it has a lot of fun competitiveness. There's a lot of opportunities for trash talk. Again, hitting somebody with a turtle shell is always a very fun, satisfying experience. And there's just nothing quite like those close races where you are able to eke out the win at the very end. Mm-hmm. And just trying different things, different shortcuts, different items, different racers. There's a lot to come back to here. The music's great. The sound effects are fun. The voice acting is really on point.
Wind ceremonies.
Yep, exactly. The wind ceremonies are fun. Mm-hmm. Watching everybody drive out to the castle and then all get together and you get to see the gigantic trophy in the sky. Always really fun. And then just the sense of like winning a cup, especially one if it's been difficult for a while or it was a really close one, it gives you a real cool feeling of accomplishment. So yeah, I have so much good to say. The only things that I can say that aren't like necessarily perfect are just because of things that the lifespan of when the N64, this game came out early, so a lot of this stuff hadn't really been fully fleshed out yet, and just stuff that would come out down the line with sequels and things like that might not have been available at this point. But yeah, you could see the direction where it was going, and you could see where it came from and how it improved upon Super Mario Kart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And yeah, I think it really, really set the bar high for games going forward. Again, I haven't played Diddy Kong Racing very much at all. A close friend of mine had it, and I would go over there sometimes and play it, but not really anything more than just kind of messing around. So it'll be interesting to do that comparison. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would give it a B+. I think it's a really good game, and I feel like it's a game that has aged really well.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think we're about the same score around there. So
I think so.
Sorry, I just wanted to put that wind ceremony because we didn't really talk about that.
We didn't, but yeah, good call.
That's okay. They're basically the same, except for if you get fourth place, you get cut off.
Right.
It's like a swerve, brother.
You get nothing. You get nothing then, yeah. But yeah. I thought that was cool. I also thought I thought it was funny that the bronze trophy almost looks like rose gold colored.
Yes, it does.
I thought that was interesting. But yeah, little side note.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so that is Mario Kart 64. We're not sure when we're going to do Mario Kart Super Circuit, but that would be the next in the series.
That would be, yes.
I've never played that game, actually, truth be told.
I don't know if I have either, actually.
Yeah. So, not sure when that one, but that will be the next Mario Kart that we review.
Yes.
But the next game that we're going to be doing, we put 10 different games into a wheel. We spun that wheel, and it landed on Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Yes.
Now, this is an interesting game because this one was supposed to come out for the GameCube.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too much into this game because we got to play it first. And,
absolutely.
But I do know this is right after Microsoft acquired Rare.
Interesting.
So, yeah, this was supposed to be a Nintendo game, and it lands on the Xbox with the at the last second. So
very interesting.
That's just kind of a little teaser. Yeah.
So this will be my first exposure to that.
Yeah, very, very zany. And this is going to be our first game that we've ever reviewed in the 2000s, too.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
it's all coming together, people.
I know. Time flies. It really does. But
yeah,
this is kind of considered retro to a younger audience.
Yes,
so.
to all the whippersnappers out there.
So, Grabbed by the Ghoulies will be our next game, and then we got plenty others because I saw those games on that wheel.
That's right. We got 9 on the wheel that were chosen, and so many more.
Right.
Now, so.
That's right. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Mario Kart 64.
Yes.
And we will be back soon with another episode of the Retro Review Crew.
Oh, that's right.
I'm Matt.
I'm Travis.
We'll see you next time.
Yes.